So this video is about sculpting the hand. Remember from life drawing class that your hand, the bones in your hand, you got 6 little bones here, and then you have 5 carpals, or metacarpals, sorry. Then you have your phalanges. So from here to here is a straight line. It can bend this way, but it can't fold in half. From here to here is a straight line. There and there, and there and there. Those are all individual segments. You got those 2 here and your metacarpal here. And also keep in mind that the webbing of the hand doesn't go straight down. It goes at an angle. So if you hold the pencil in your hand, it's going to be lower here than it is here. So it does not bend here, it bends here, because this is where the joint is. That's the joint, the bone kind of protruding there, getting closer to the surface for the knuckles. So to start this, you're going to create a mitten, probably about 3 or 4 inches. Include some of the wrist, so you have reference there as to where it is. And then start kind of creating the palm of the hand. Then you're going to, with the thumb kind of sets on the side of the hand. It doesn't set like that unless you're really trying, you really have to put that thumb in line to make it look like that. So it naturally will rest at an angle. So you have the back of the hand and you have this flat part for the thumb. The thumb, as you can see on your own hand, goes up just above where the edge or the ending of your pointer finger is. And what I'll typically do now is divide this off into my 4 fingers. So I'll start here. It may have gone a little far. And I'll create, I'm not cutting all the way through at this point. I will in a moment. And then typically, if you make a mitten that's like really flared out on the pinky, you'll want to take a V out here. So it's more like that. And you want to make sure that it's at an arc, and you're going to be using your fingers, so create the arc that it is. And you can see my ring finger is slightly taller than my pointer finger, and my middle finger's taller, and then my pinky finger. And for the most part, my pinky finger lines up with the first joint on my ring finger. This falls in between, and this falls slightly lower than that. That falls right about at my nail bed. The thumb, as we can see, comes to about the middle of my pointer finger. The gesture you make is up to you. So you want to make sure you have enough thickness on your fingers. You don't want your fingers looking like sausages. Push that back a little bit. On your reclining figures, this will be a little bit easier because you won't be doing it in the round. If I have time, I'll demonstrate on Ben here. So I'm going to go ahead. I like where they're at, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And then this one comes down kind of at an angle, so I can have a pinky finger here. I've warmed my clay as usual in the microwave. It's pretty soft. And the arc of the fingers goes along with the arc of the arc of the end of them. So I've created this one probably a bit too, I didn't cut at an angle enough. So now we can kind of shape the fingers. Shaping the fingers, they're relatively flat. They're flat on top and kind of rounded on the sides. So soften that edge that you with your fingers. And when the clay is really soft like mine is, you can really get in there and kind of move it around and make it easier to get to. And if a finger's looking too long, make it a little bit fatter, push it back in. This pointer finger probably needs to be taken down a little bit, but we'll shave it down and create the joints in a moment. And I'm shaping the pinky finger. So I've kind of got this cartoon looking hand here. And I think my thumb's a little long here. I've got about the right proportions. Lengthen this a little bit. So making sure. And I think I'll just do a peace sign. So what this will do is you can see how this doesn't fold flat over it. This doesn't fold flat over. It's coming at an angle, and that's at an angle. And these two are straight up and down. So this part of the hand kind of turns. And this finger is a little bit lower. And right now I'm making them kind of Gumby-like, where they're bending where they shouldn't. And so I'm just kind of getting the gesture. And then the thumb kind of folds over, and it starts to fold down here as opposed to up here. These splay a little bit more. And keep in mind, keep looking back and forth. Now to get this looking a little bit more realistic, we can use our tools. So to get this more flat, let's see here. This here is flat from there to there, and it sets down a little bit. So I can shave with my ribbon tool. And create that flatness. So if you choose to make a fist, it's going to be a little bit different. Really look at your fist. My clay's a little bit on the soft side, having a little bit of a hard time. So to get to my finger back here, I'll just move the thumb. In that case, having it nice and soft is helpful. And when I do that, I guess it does kind of touch all the way back, so I was thinking it wouldn't, but needs to come down a little bit more. That the distance from here to here is not the same as there to there. It gets skinnier and smaller as it gets towards the end. You don't want to make balloon animals out of your hand. And same with the pinky. The pinky is a little bit lower, so I'm going to cut it a little bit lower. The pinky is one of the most important parts of our body. It's actually what separates us from other animals. Even like primates, Primates, their thumb is further down and they don't have the pinky like we do that allows us to grasp tools. They have to hold on to tools like this, which if you're hammering on something, it makes it so you can't hold quite as tightly. So refining the finger down. Again, I need to push this down a little bit. And the thumb, probably need a bit more. I have some really soft clay here in my tub. I wanted to get that in there for the thumb because there's that fleshy part right there. That gets involved. Keep referring back to your model. There we go. And these are basically straight, so we'll create the rounded edge. And our next step is going to be creating the joints, because it gets a little skinnier at each, gets skinnier on the bottom side and wider on the top. And that's just due to extra skin and fatty tissue. Because you have fat pads in here, and then this is where kind of the tendons and such run. You don't really have a whole lot of muscles in your fingers or in your hands. There's a few that allow you to do this, but most of your muscles are, most of your fingers are controlled by muscles up in your forearm. If you push on your forearm, you can make each finger kind of twitch a little bit. Make sure as you get towards the end of the finger, you get it skinnier and work it in segments, just like the fingers are. So you guys kind of understand how this is working. I'm going to move on. There's a lot more refining to do here. There's ridges that run down the back of the hand, and it has to do with the ligaments. In mine, you can see these ridges are the ligaments that are running up into my fingers and are what are helping control that. So you need to create depressions here and look at how your hand is actually structured. And right in this position, this is relatively flat, but you can see that the ridges are here. So, and I need to take this down a little bit and round it over. Back of your hand is not always flat. You need to take pictures of your hand in the position to get better views. Go for it. I still want you referring to your hands because that's your best bet, your best model is actually seeing what's going on. That needs to be a little bit bigger and that needs to be a little bit softer. It does change as you turn it and look at different sides. So that's going to be a flat segment. That's going to be a flat segment. And then the tip of the thumb is a flat segment. Then you got the fingernails. These are and I'd probably do those fingernails before I put that thumb back, but I want to show you the fingernails on this straight one. So the shape of it, you want to get just kind of the outline of it. If you have long fingernails, you can include those, but those are you want to make sure you get this part done right, and then you'll build out. So if you look really closely at your fingernail, there's a little ridge here of kind of flesh, and then this tucks back under. The really tricky part is this transition between this fleshy part and the way it tucks under your nail. So you want to describe the back part of it. Start with just a line. And then with your cuticle pushers, which would be a good tool to use in carving and sculpting. Kind of push that down. Use your paper clip or ribbon tool to kind of round the nail. Get the right shape. Then you're going to take a pointy tool, your X-Acto knife, and you're going to cut here and then under the nail, like you're cleaning out underneath your nails. Then it tucks back in on this side. And there's how you do a nail. The wrinkles on the back, if it's straight, look really closely and you'll notice that these wrinkles, they're not just lines, and they don't go all the way across in some cases. Like this one for me goes all the way across, and so does this one, but there's another little one there. And if you bend just slightly, you can see See that? And this finger's really quite long. So you want to use a softer tool. You won't want to use your X-Acto knife. Use a pencil and just create a little, and then kind of roll out of that groove. That way it doesn't look like you've cut a line into it. It looks more like a wrinkle as opposed to an indentation. Same with these. With these knuckles, they're a little bit more fleshy. They bend a little bit more than these, so they have an extra skin for that. So there's a little pucker that goes around. And all I'm doing is just kind of pressing the clay and creating that little ledge. And then I'll press out a little bit to create this ridge and soften it up a little bit. And I can soften it with my fingers, and you have the knuckle. Where the bone comes close here, you'll want to describe that little protrusion. Just kind of rolling the clay around and bunching it up where you need it bunched. And the knuckle that's kind of flexed is doesn't have really those same wrinkles as the straight ones. It just has kind of an indentation a little bit. Just almost a color change. It's not even really an indentation. So that's sculpting the hand. Obviously it needs a lot more work. So and then next video will be sculpting feet.